Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Three Geeks interview. I am not sitting next to John or Justin. I am here today with Mick, who is my new partner in crime as far as our team up with the Scene Snobs. Lots of fun. Can't wait to do this interview with him. And I'm here with Jennifer Candy. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Hanging in there.
I'm so glad we finally got to make this work. Scheduling has been crazy, but we're here.
Yep, we made it. We survived. We're out of 2020 into 2021.
I don't know if it's going much better.
No, let's be honest. Was it really going to get any better right off the go? You know, we have to ease into it. Just go in quietly.
2020 refuses to concede the year, so it's just leaking over a little bit. Yeah. But this might be an obvious answer. It might not be. But what made you want to get into acting and comedy?
Oh gosh, probably the obvious. Well, I was surrounded by it, so I grew up around it. I actually didn't want to get into it when I was really little. I was going to be a veterinarian or a marine biologist. I think like every young child in the 80s that wanted to be an either, marine biologist of some sort. But it was, I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed, like in theater. In high school, I got into plays a little bit, and then in college, I was a theater major, and I realized that I actually did love doing it. So I just did more of it, and wanted to learn everything about it, from stage, direction, directing, building, not just the acting aspect of it. I wanted to learn everything about it. And then moved to Chicago, worked at Second City out there, got into improv and kind of enjoyed the Second City aspect of that. And it was fun. I just, I've always wanted to, and then I realized, I think I'm in it and I've dedicated so much time to it and I love it. So it's like, that's how I got there.
I think we should probably mention that Jennifer is the daughter of the great John Candy.
Yes, that is correct. If you don't recognize the last name, my father was John Candy, who wasn't a stranger to Second City and SCTV. So I grew up around it. I grew up watching SCTV. I grew up with those kind of comedic icons as like family members essentially. And I was always around funny people, and I liked to make people laugh, and I liked I like the process of writing and creating something and, putting it out there for people.
Well, if I could ask, when you were getting into improv and you were getting into acting, was there any way you went about it, like classes, things like that you...
I did. So I started off, besides going to college for theater, where they teach you everything, like you take theater classes from like Alexander technique to, you learn all of that stuff. And then when I went into improv, because they didn't have so much of that in school, and let's be honest, you learn a lot from doing. So I I started taking classes at Second City, Los Angeles when it opened up here. And it was a really, really, really small school. So I didn't quite, I wanted to actually really go for the experience. So I went to Chicago and I just started taking classes there. I went through their conservatory program. I worked in the box office. And I just started doing that. So that was kind of, I took classes. I learned, I learned from the best people that were teaching there, who were actually on the main stage and ETC stage, and then learn from them.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's such, because Second City has such a long storied history. It had to, not just because your father was a huge part of that history, but you stepping in, how did it feel like? Just getting into it. It
was a surreal experience. I had gone to go visit. We would actually go look for apartments. So my mom and we flew out to Chicago because we had to figure out where I was going to live. So we were looking for apartments, and we had been all over Chicago, and we couldn't find it. We were exhausted. We were going to these places that like addresses didn't exist. We couldn't get a hold of landlords. It was technically neighborhoods where I was like, do I really want to be here? And it was too much of a commute to Second City. And so my mom was like, okay, well, let's go back to Second City. Let's walk around where your dad used to live, because he lived right around the corner from Second City. So we were like, great. So my mom took me to the street that he used to live on, which was Crilly Court, which was right in Old Town in Chicago. And we were looking, and it's a block of buildings that are now condos that were apartments. And we look, and the building that my dad used to live in, there was a for rent sign. And we went, oh my gosh. And so we went, this is it. And for me, and then also we was reading it was like, okay, for rent, this is it. Pets available, pets allowed. I was like, cause I had 2 cats at the time and I wanted a dog. And so we called them up and they said it was for available. So we literally took a taxi cab to the landlord place and we put a deposit down and we went back to LA and I moved to Chicago like a couple weeks later. Like I drove cross country with my best friend and we packed up the car and I started there and that was it. And so it was kind of that like, oh, that was meant to happen that I lived there. And the Second City at some point, they did these walking tours of Chicago walking tours. So it was actors from Second City. They would take you around Old Town and give you a history lesson. So I became part of the Second City walking tour for a while. So they would say that this is where John Candy used to live and his daughter currently is here, who's currently working in the box office. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it wasn't obviously the same unit that I lived in because my dad lived in a back unit looking at this kind of like alley cul-de-sac and I had a front unit. But it was the same building. So it was still pretty like, this is pretty cool.
What an omen! What an omen! To like
right?
Be going to Chicago and then that particular building is
available. That was it, and I loved it. It was a cute. And on the other side, so the apartments that I lived in, on Crilly Court, but then across the way, it used to be a backlot for all the Charlie Chaplin films when Charlie Chaplin shot back there. So there's a lot of history in that little nook right there, and so I had no idea that Crilly Court was so famous for old Charlie Chaplin films.
I think a lot of people don't realize how huge Chicago is in history of filmmaking.
Yeah,
there's so much because so much talent comes from Chicago.
Exactly, and that was another reason. It's like my dad had shot so many movies there, and we had a place there for a little bit, and so I'd always go from Toronto, Chicago, Los Angeles. And so they all felt like home to me. So to move to somewhere, I wanted to move out of Los Angeles for a little bit. And so Chicago just was always pulling on me. And there's so much history there. And it's a great starter city for actors too. Like people think of like, oh, go to Los Angeles. I'm like, no, go to Chicago, go experience the theater there, go experience, you could be all the movies that they shoot there. It's just tons of my friends were, they got little roles on there. They became, background artists. It was just like, there's so much to do there. It's surreal.
That's so awesome.
That's incredible. So, I got to ask, how do you get a job working on According to Jim?
Well, when I moved back from Chicago, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. So I sent my resume to all of my dad's friends and just kind of went around and was like, I am looking for work. And so Jim responded and he was like, great. I have this show called According to Jim. I'll bring you on as a background artist. And I said, fantastic. And so I became a regular background player on According to Jim. And then after a year or so of doing background stuff, I eventually became a stand-in. So stand-ins essentially stand in for the actors for camera and lighting purposes and rehearsal. And so I started doing that, and then I got little bit parts from it. And so it was a really nice gig, and it was great because it was consistent work. And that's what any actor kind of looks for, is consistent work. And I got to learn a lot. I got to meet tons of my friends. So from According to Jim, all of the directors and assistant directors and crew members all went on to go do all the Disney shows that your daughter was watching. So Liv and Maddie, Lab Rats. So I moved from According to Jim. Then I did a bunch of different little shows in between, but Wizards of Waverly Place. So everyone who I've been working with for years, we've all known each other from According to Jim. So that's where we all started. And we've gone on to just, it's been nice because a lot of the crew sticks together. And so they move from production to production. And so we just landed in the Disney world for the longest time.
You mentioned sending your resume out to your dad's friends. When I interviewed your brother, and I even watched Couch Candy, which is one of your shows. Yeah. You guys, he said that you guys were especially close to the Levy family growing up.
Yes, we were. Yeah, close to the Levys. We're close to like everyone, all of them really. It was like the Flahertys, the Levys, Dave Thomas, John Hughes, of course, he wasn't Second City, but he was another close, really family friend. But I think, and then I also like reached out to like Don Lake, who is a big Canadian actor and who his and all the Christopher Guest films and stuff like that. So he was also kind of a mentor to me. And then Tino Insana, who came from Second City, was my dad's best friend. When my dad passed, he really kind of stepped in and was like, okay, here, let me meet my agent. And he did the voice of Uncle Ted on Bobby's World. He was, he did Bushroot from Darkwing Duck, the villain character there. He's Bubble Guppies, which is Mr. Grouper now, which is my son's absolute favorite show.
Oh my God, you just blew my mind. Uncle Ted is Mr. Grouper.
Right?
And I was just watching Bubble Guppies with my 4-year-old this morning, and
so now you're gonna look at Mr. Grouper and go, oh my gosh, it's Uncle Ted. And he was the pig on Barnyard. I know. Once you have kids, your mind just kind of like you're like, oh, there you go. But so yeah, no, we were definitely really close with a lot of. So I sent my resume out Tino was the one who actually got me helped me get my first agent. He introduced me to his agent, and then eventually I'm with the people who represented him for commercially and also for voiceover and stuff like that. So it's like he passed away a couple years ago, but he was just such a huge influence on me. And then I always, stayed in contact with like the Levies and all that stuff, and just kind of I always picked their brain, but it was also still family. So it's like you kind of want them to do their thing and you're doing your thing and you don't want to impose or anything. But Jim was great because he employed me for so many years. And I learned a lot and I made so many connections. I don't think I would be where I am without those connections, but it was good. It was a lot of fun. And I still connect with all those people through Couch Candy.
You worked with your brother on the show. I have it right here. Where was it? Oh no, I lost it. Hold on.
Which one? Well, I did. Well, he's created
a party.
Where's his party? Which is him and his friend Garen. They created these two amazing characters, and so I played a wacky character in it. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah. So we've done little projects here and there, and I helped him when I think it was a couple years ago. Him and Garen, also his same writing partner. They wrote Chowchilla. And we shot that, and I helped kind of like produce a little bit with that, and kind of, because it was just the two of them. And I had a little small role in that as well. So that was fun.
Nice.
What's it like working with your brother?
It's fun. I love it. It's we're very supportive, but we're also very like, if we see something that needs fixing or like being like, oh, you could try this a little bit better, you could do this. It's good because it comes from a place of not being too critical. Like we're like, oh wait, okay, that means like, okay, I really take to heart like what he says. He's like, Jen, try and do this, or you're looking over here too much, or you're doing this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fix that. And I do the same with him, and he's like, oh, okay. So it's nice to kind of have someone who has your back the whole entire time.
From years of like, I'm sure visiting sets, your father was on. Is there anything that like is in the back of your mind, like when you're doing a scene or you're on a set, like maybe you just remembered it, like advice or just, how somebody did something or portrayed something. You're like, you know what? I like that maybe stuck with you over the years.
Yeah, it's, well, it kind of comes with the preparation and beforehand. It's like going on set, and it's just treating everyone with kind and being nice and being just going in and making friends and being comfortable. So if you're comfortable and then that kind of creates like some sort of trust between everyone, that you can kind of be free to do whatever you want. So if you're going to make a fool of yourself, might as well make a fool in front of all your friends or people that you don't really know. But it gives you that kind of, or I don't know. It's like Don Lake gave me some good advice. It was mostly with auditions, and it's just do it as if like just have fun with it. Who cares? Like, if you're not having fun with it, don't you're not just it's one take, it's one scene. Just have fun with it, and those are the ones that end up being the ones that are used, or the ones that are not. Just that come from a place of just being natural, and you're more relaxed and comfortable and stuff like that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I worked with a first AD a long time ago. I was just a PA at the time, and he always said, he's like, Michael, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Always say please and thank you, no matter what. And it just, that stuff sticks with you when you're there.
With everyone. It's like, from background to stand-in to laughers to PAs, like people who are running around getting you stuff. It's like, if you can get it yourself, maybe get it yourself. And if you really can't, then please ask someone. But there's no need for attitude, and unless someone's being a complete a-hole on set to you, then you just kind of, don't get walked on. But you shouldn't be the person that's walking on other people.
I've always said it's the only job I can't wait at the end of the day to get home, but I cannot wait to get back the next day.
I know it's it's a lot, because people. So you did production assistant and stuff like that. Is that what you were?
I started out as that. I was a producer for a while too.
Yeah. So it's like, no, it is. It's like, because you're the last one there and you're the first one there in the morning, so you have to love it.
Oh yeah, except the sound guys, they can get there late and leave early.
I know, right? Why is that? You don't need sound this take, right?
No, it's I mean, you Camp Candy. I know Jason was gonna ask too, but I need to ask about Camp Candy because I grew up on that. Yeah. I was a kid right at the right time when that came out.
Oh, so such a great show.
It was. I always wondered, like, what did your dad have, like, what made him want to do a cartoon? I mean, I guess it's the.
I think it's also you have to look at the time. It was the 90s. Where everyone was creating a cartoon show for themselves. You had Howie Mandel doing Bobby's World. You had Louis Anderson doing the Louis Anderson, like the Louis. Was that the kids show? I can't remember. But Louis Anderson had his own show. So it was like every big actor was doing their own cartoon. And my dad loved the camping idea and loved cartoons. And so I think for him that was something that he just thought was, well, this is what I do next. It's like it was film. And then he wasn't quite into the television. I think if he stayed around a little bit longer, he would have gone into television. But at the time, television wasn't something that you did. You accomplished everything else before you did like true television, like meaning. But he did cartoons, and it's a great gig because he created a great show. He brought his friends on. He had his kids do a couple voices. We did live segments that we shot in Canada on our farm and in the backwoods area, where he would do these little like PSAs about camping and don't like all this fun stuff. And we, it was like my brother and my best friend were in the background like fishing and doing like weird stuff. And it was just, that's what you did. And Camp Candy was just loved by so many people because it was such a fun concept. It's like, to this day, I still feel like there should be something done with Camp Candy, like just a spinoff of some sort. But because it's Marvel, Camp Candy is Marvel, if you know that. So I'm like, there's got to be a Marvel, spinoff somewhere there.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I would love to see it revived in some way, or
even just brought back. Like I have them on VHS, but I would love to have them on DVD or some sort of because downloadable so that my son can watch them. And it's because I don't have the VHS hooked up, but it's like that. I can find them on YouTube, but it's like I want something that people can, all their hard work can get paid for, as opposed to ripped off the internet.
Yeah, legit. But like something like that. Like, what was that like? Were you around 11 or 12 at the time, correct?
I think so. Yes, that sounds about right. I remember my dad. I had to audition for one of the character voices, and I think it was like auditioning. I don't know if I was auditioning to play Vanessa, because they already had a wonderful actress who played Vanessa, and then they were for an episode. They had me do her voice for something. And so I remember practicing lines with my dad, and I had it in a Valley, because I had watched the show and I wanted to do it in a Valley Girl accent. And my dad was like, no, I want you to do it in your normal voice. And I was like, well, she's a Valley Girl and I'm going to do it in a Valley Girl accent. And my dad was like, we had this huge argument about it. And so I went in and I took my dad's notes and I did it normally. And then the director, she's like, great. Now, Jennifer, can you do it in a Valley Girl accent? So I remember looking at my dad going, I told you. Because I know what the character they wanted for the character. But it was fun just going in, because my dad had a studio in his office in Los Angeles here, and we would just go in, and it's we also just watched him work. It's like he would be in there and he'd be doing either stuff for Camp Candy, and then he was also doing stuff for Radio Candy. So he would do radio segments there, which aired in Toronto, Canada, I think. Toronto. I don't know if it aired in the States.
I've never heard of Radio Candy.
Radio Candy is amazing. It was a radio show from 89 to 91, I think it was, but it was legit. Like, it was kind of like a sketch comedy radio show with amazing music in between that he just, Google it, or, and I'll post a couple things. I don't think there's any audio of it anywhere. Like, I obviously have stuff, but I don't know how to get it out there. I could probably get some of the sketches out there, but I couldn't get the music because of the copyright stuff. And there's legit commercials. It's like I have copies of all the weird commercials that were happening there.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
A hero in film, hero in television, now a hero to podcasters, radio person.
Right? He just wanted to do it all. It's like, tough act to follow.
I've watched some of your stuff and research, and you're not a tough act to follow.
Thank you.
You got the talent.
I appreciate that.
So, I got to ask you about your time on One Day at a Time.
Yes.
There's not a lot of shows that deal with social issues anymore, and there's One Day at a Time, and there's the Connors.
Yep.
And I think they're both doing that pretty well, but One Day at a Time was exceptional.
Oh, they did. Gloria did a phenomenal job with that. Gloria and I went to college together. She was a little bit older than Gloria Keller. She was the creator of the show. And so she called me because she needed a scene with a bunch of her friends, and someone couldn't make it, and so she called me, and so she actually called my brother-in-law and was like, wait, who I need contact information, and my brother-in-law Chris was like, call Jen, and so she called me, and it was like this last minute thing, and so I went in, and I was so happy to be a part of it because that show is it's doing the right thing at the right time and just the right issues, and it just is. It's a good show. It's just quality television, and I think everyone on that show is super talented and super nice. And I was happy to be a part of it for even if it was just for one episode. I was really happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. You're right. It's something that it seems to be going away. Like, it seems like they're coming with a lot of social issues, especially in sitcoms, which is it's always been sort of the home.
Yeah.
For social issues, in my opinion. That's
how it's all the stuff that we watched growing up. It's like it was sitcoms, and it wasn't necessarily the 1 hour stuff. It was the sitcoms that were dealing with the everyday issues. The Connors is doing it, I think, really well too. I watch that show and I enjoy it, and I have a lot of friends that work on it too. And
yeah, the way they've handled COVID on that show, the Connors, has been amazing.
No, it's great. I know it has been. It's just because it's truth. The thing is comedy is in reality, and and it's also not necessarily, doesn't have to always be funny. It just has to be real, and people will be interested and intrigued.
Yeah, that is legit. So you said you have a son?
I do. I have a son, 2 years old.
We're all parents here. And
we're all parents.
I want to ask.
How are you doing with all that?
Hanging in there, for sure. I have an 8-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, and my 8-year-old's favorite movie of all time is Home Alone.
Oh, I love it. And
I told him, I was like, John Candy, because we've been introducing him to John Candy this past year in 2020. I was like, if you need laughs,
that's good. Home Alone's a good one to have him watch too.
But I gotta ask, as his daughter, what movies are you introducing?
Okay, well, we've already introduced Rescuers Down Under, because his character as Wilbur, and we have my husband found before he was born, he found these, like, they're not animation cells, but they're like storyboards, but they're stamps. So it was this whole so it's all of the stories. It's the whole story movie, and we got them framed and we put them in his room. And then I had a couple cells, so we introduced him to Rescuers Down Under, Cool Runnings,
Nice.
which is a great one. And then he's seen, like, does he understand? No, because he's 2. But he has seen parts of Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, Great Outdoors, because they're on. And, like, if they're on TV, it's like it's like there's Grandpa. Trying to think what other ones Spaceballs, because we have when my husband went to Comic-Con with his brother, they came back with this great artwork of my dad from Barf, and so we have that hung up and so every time he sees it, he points, and we're like, oh, that's Grandpa, and so he probably thinks Grandpa's a Mog, but but he does see that. So we try and introduce them to, but it's mostly like the cartoons, and Cool Runnings was something because one of my husband's favorite movies, and it's also family friendly, and it's like there's nothing it's just entertainment. And Wilbur was a little hard because he was like, it's like a voice, so he doesn't quite understand that concept, but he did watch it, and he recognizes it from the pictures in his room, and he gets it, I think, to an extent. And so we show him movies, so it's like if it's on, it's on, and that some of it will just he's not absorbing all the bad language yet.
Well, now you have to set up the VCR.
I know.
Introduce them to Mom's first.
I know.
There's some
Camp
John
Candy
Candy movies I gotta pick up on VHS because they're so hard to find on DVD.
There's some that are hard out there, but yeah, I know. Which ones are you trying to get?
Only the Lonely.
Oh yeah,
that's my all-time favorite. It's his 3rd movie with Macaulay Culkin.
Yep. No, Only the Lonelies is such a great movie too. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if I have that one. I think we have, like, my mom would always pick them up, and she'd pick up copies for us and stuff like that. They just come and go.
Do you find it hard watching his movies, or is it more like watching home videos almost?
It's a combination of both. I think it depends on the mood I'm in. But most of the time I enjoy watching them. If it's during the holidays, I love watching Trains, Planes, and Home Alone, and Great Outdoors. And then during the summer, it's like Great Outdoors. You want to watch all these other, the summer rental. I like watching them. I don't really. But there's sometimes it can be a little overkill where you're just like, oh, okay, I don't need to I don't need to watch this anymore. But I love, I went through like I love JFK. Like, that's such a great movie, and my dad did such a great job in that. So it's like, if that's ever on, I'm always like, oh, I just sit there and watch it because it's such a good movie, Oliver Stone. And
I firmly believe your dad would have gotten an Oscar eventually.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, JFK alone, his scenes in that, he chewed up the entire.
Yeah, he works so hard on that character. He had a dialogue coach, and we went to New Orleans, and he worked really hard because he wanted to. This was like a big deal, and it wasn't a comedy, and it was like he didn't want to come to set and be like, oh, there's the funny guy. It was like he wanted to come to set and be like, look, this is what I can do, and he did, and it was phenomenal.
Well, I got to ask you about something about you, which is couch candy, which you're moving it over to podcast form, right? I
am in the process of doing that slowly but surely. But that was something, and my my editor friend Chris and I were like, okay, let's just how do we get it out there more? And because the reality of doing more couch candies right now is a little challenging without it being something like this. But I liked the concept of being on a couch, talking with someone, super casual, super comfortable. And that's why I created Couch Candy. I just kind of wanted stories that my dad's friends had that may or may not have been told, or just told in a different and more relaxed setting. So I created that and did that. And then this lovely 2020, I was able to get all the other shows that I had previously recorded, just edited and put them out for everyone to watch. And so then I'm like, okay, well, the next step, because everyone's like, oh, I love them, but I listen to them, I don't necessarily watch them. And I was like, no, I know, it's like, I appreciate it. Because I think originally I didn't turn it into a podcast is because I had video clips and I had photos that I like. That was something that I wanted different out of this show, was something that like you can actually see that you wouldn't see, because it was like photos that you might have never seen that my mom took, or it was very visual. But now I'm like, okay, I can switch it over to a podcast, so I'm going to do that.
That's fantastic. I've watched and listened, and it's fantastic.
I'm glad you like it. It's a fun show to do, and there was a benefit that I did for a charity I work for last month, and I brought back couch candy for a short audition with my brother-in-law Chris Sullivan. So that was fun to do. So we did it outside. So it was something that I was like, okay, was I able to get like one show in for the year? It was an abridged version, but it was still fun to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, it's a great concept too. Like
yeah, thank you.
And it reminds me of because I was in no way, shape, or form an entertainer, and I didn't have talent like that. But
we're all entertainers.
Well, I would film a friend of mine's group at IO West in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
And so I got to sit in, and it just always seemed like after everything died down and everybody was gone, like everybody just chilled on the couch, and that's where the conversations come.
Yeah. That's essentially it. It's the before and the after, and it's just that kind of. It's just that the just being comfortable and just relaxed and not so it was something different at the time that a lot of talk shows weren't doing. It was because you would go and you'd have the host and you would have the couch and they would talk, and it was just I just wanted it to be more relaxed.
Yeah, and it definitely is for sure.
Right before we let you go, I have one last question, and that is, what 2 TV shows have you watched during quarantine that you like, or movies?
Oh gosh, what haven't I watched? Okay, I've done. There's too many. Like this is a whole other hour of a show of what have we watched during pandemic.
Don't lie, Tiger King.
Yeah, no, I did not get into that. I would think I was the only person that my husband and I were like, meh, no, we didn't. I didn't want to get into it. Cobra Kai, completely just binge watched the whole entire thing. And then, the Queen's Gambit,
that was amazing.
Oh, that was so good. Awesome. Queen's Gambit, Cobra Kai. The Boys. I finally caught up on The Boys. I had never watched that, and I was just like, this is so good. This is so wrong and so just very violent. But I really like that one. So yeah, I said 3. So those were the 3 that I've been watching. And then obviously the your go-to shows that aren't, but sometimes I just need to binge watch things.
I think Cobra Kai is my favorite show that's out right now, but there's a certain of reality you just got to understand does not exist within the show, and the show is perfect.
It is. I think this season, there's no spoiler alerts, but this season I definitely kind of went, really, with the fighting? Like it just seemed to me, I was like, ugh. But because I love everything about it. I love the fight choreography. I think it's phenomenal. But there's just something to it this year where I was like, why am I just not why am I waiting for them to just stop? Like it was a moment of but other than that, I love all the nostalgia. I love the connections. I love this new story of Johnny. It's so good. It's just as a huge Karate Kid fan, it's super happy about it.
As much of Johnny dealing with technology they can give me, I absolutely love everything. The fact that he didn't know to plug in his laptop.
I know he returned it because the battery died. You sent me he's like, well, did you plug it in? It's like, oh, you plug it. I know. And then he threw away his phone, but he didn't know Facebook was on a computer as well. He's talk about someone who is so anti-technology, or not anti, just doesn't
He's 80s.
He's 80s. He's
very 80s.
He's hardcore 80s, and that's what I love about it. And he's so good. He's so good.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of mentioned the fight scenes and how outlandish it is, like them fighting at the chop shop this year and stuff.
Yeah.
The whole point of the original Karate Kid that people made fun of the sequel for was it was only supposed to be about this kid who's getting beat up and then comes back into a karate tournament. It's not fighting drug dealers. It's not going crazy or anything like that. And it just spiraled into this thing, which is great, and I love every second of it.
Oh, I do too. But it's no longer 2 dojos and a tournament. It's 2 dojos. What happens outside of school? What happens inside of school? What happens here? What happens there? Let's fight here, here, here. And you're just like, oh, there's too much fighting. Which I guess you can never have, but. I do think I'm excited for season 4 because
I'm glad that one of the things that was driving me nuts is them bringing Johnny and Daniel together. They finally did it. We don't have to wait I do like that they were dealing with the fact that they are like the same person.
Yeah, it's the yin and yang, but they are the same person. I love the two sides to the story. It's like, because there is two sides to a story. So it's like we saw one version in Karate Kid, and we're seeing another one in Cobra Kai, and I like how they're making he is not a bad guy. Like I like seeing his side of it. He's trying. He's not perfect, and he does have his flaws, but it makes him more. You're rooting for him, and I'm totally rooting for him.
Yeah, and if you can't walk, you just go straight to him. He'll have you walking quickly. Just take you to see Dee Snider.
Oh my God, that was just that whole like you want that, go get it. And he's like, okay, and then it's like, oh, and his facial expressions are so good when he's just like, and then he's like, because then you feel that he's like, oh, I'm actually really legitimately sorry that I just made you fall out of bed and you can't walk.
Yeah, he just tries so hard, and I do like that he thinks it's all psychological and screw medicine.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's good though.
Mick, did you have anything else?
I just one, if I could, in a land of revival and remakes. If there's like a character that's maybe a revival of like your father's, what would it be? Are we getting a Crumb?
Oh, man, oh God, Crumb. I don't know, a revival. If there was that's a tough one, because there has been slight revivals, and I am never. They're hard. That's a hard one, because
TV show Who's Jennifer Crumb?
I know, God, right.
There you go. Yeah,
I could do that one. Yeah, I'll say that one. Let's do that. I'd like to play a detective of some sort. Right. It reminds me of my dad helped me write a story when I was in grade school, and we just wrote a detective story, and it was probably really inappropriate now that I think back about it, because it was like, Detective Airhead, and it was just like, it was very like punny, and that was our humor. And so I feel like it was that was Crumb, essentially, who he was writing, like helping me write, was like, we were creating this character, and it's just Crumb is this lovable, just happens to fall on mistakes, but he does mistake after mistake, but then just happens to solve a crime. And I just think that's endearing. So yeah, that's a good one. I would okay that one.
If you guys are watching live,
let us visit the set.
I know, of course, done.
If you guys are watching live, hashtag Netflix Jennifer Crumb.
Yeah, right. Let's get it going. I need work, people.
Well, thank you. I just really appreciate talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thanks so much. It's been fun. I've had a great time.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. You can check out Jennifer Candy and all of the links that I will supply in the description of this video and audio. And have a great day.